In Starman, Karen Allen is kidnapped by a creature from another planet who looks just like Jeff Bridges. Starman is one of 4 new holiday blockbusters we'll be reviewing this week on At the Movies, the movie review program. Mankind sends an invitation to outer space and receives an unexpected visitor in Starman. Our next movie is named Starman, and Starman begins in 1977 when America launched that Voyager spacecraft with its Starman message to whoever might be living beyond the solar system. Remember that, if you get this message, please give us a ring. And according to the movie, the message was received, and as the film opens, a visiting spacecraft crash lands in Wisconsin trying to respond to our invitation in Voyager.
That's where I'd go.
Is it Wisconsin? Well, they're actually aiming someplace else, but the plans go awry, and then the visitor, Starman, which is so far just a glowing ball of pure energy, floats into the house of a young widow, played by Karen Allen, and he sees a photograph of her late husband and turns into an identical clone of the husband. He then forces her to drive him to the great meteor crater in Arizona, where he has a rendezvous with his mothership that's going to pick him up again. And in this scene, they're on the road, and the Starman, played by Jeff Bridges, Starman is gradually learning the ways of man. Starman. One of the nice things about Jeff Bridges' performance in this movie is that little bird-like kind of way that he has. He's a very intelligent creature from someplace else, but he's still learning how to use this human body. The movie has a lot of scenes like those two we just saw, where the Starman has those special powers, but nevertheless, he's sometimes totally mystified by human customs, like red lights and green lights. And inevitably, the Starman and the human woman begin to respect each other and even to love each other on this road trip. The movie begins as science fiction, but it turns into a contemporary version of a road movie like It Happened One Night, or They Live by Night, or maybe even Badlands. It's very effective. Starman is a movie with interesting ideas and with a very sound and evolving emotional center, and I liked it a lot.
I think I liked it maybe even more than you did. I think it's one of the highlights of the Starman movie season, which has had mostly disappointments for me.
Junk food supper.
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 Welcome to Junk Food Supper, the world's oldest, first, and still only movie review podcast on the internet. I'm one of your hosts, Sean Byron, joined, as always, by my friend up in the 669, Mr. Parker Bowman. Wait, 669?
It's a 555.
I'm giving you extra digits over here. What am I doing?
That's crazy.
I've been out of the country for 1 week. I forgot how area codes work.
You forgot all the area codes. What are the area codes over there in Tokyo? Do they have area codes? What do they got?
Well, I do know that 911 is 119 in Japan, which is something that I think we'll talk about later in our review of Twin Peaks on the Bookhouse Boys. But it's probably just one area code, right? It's not that big of a country.
Yeah, not a lot of people there.
Yeah, they probably started at 1. They've got area code 2 on deck if they need it, But they're just hanging around with 1 at the moment, I think.
Okay, that's all they need.
Yeah. How was America in my absence?
It was pretty good. I don't think anything eventful happened. The war didn't happen that you were hoping to miss out on by leaving the country.
I will say, this fucking rainstorm bookended my travel in a way that was kind of crazy, where it almost looked like for a minute I was not going to get out of the airport. Like a day before, I'm like, will this rain ever fucking stop? Because it seems to me like the whole city is flooded. And, I'm not trying to take Noah's Ark over to Japan. I'm trying to fly off this fucking runway. Thankfully, the rain stopped like 2 hours before I went to the airport or something. And then right when I got back, like within an hour of getting back, it started raining up again. And thankfully now as we record on Wednesday night, it is just subsided, but it's a lot of rain in Los Angeles to and fro.
Yeah, well, it's horrible, this rain. Like, it just won't stop. Like, it's been hailing, it's been thunderstorming. There's like funnel clouds up here, which is like insane to think about because California doesn't normally get tornadoes.
I thought you were living in funnel cake country, not funnel cloud country.
I wish. It's been so rainy, you can't even have a goddamn decent county fair up here to get any funnel cakes. It's ridiculous.
Motherfuckers. This is how they get you.
I totally agree. Yeah, so I've just been living with this rain like the entire time you've been gone. I haven't done anything. I've just been sitting inside. I've been watching Dexter. I'm almost all the way through the entire series. It's one of the best shows ever until the very end when it just all of a sudden sucks and is horrible, which is a real shame.
Yeah. Well, maybe they'll bring it back in 20 years with some CGI de-aged cast members or something and, fix all these problems that you got with it.
They actually did that. It came back like 2 years ago.
Oh, really?
Being off the air. Yeah, for like 10 or 15 years. It came back. I haven't seen all of the reboot season. There's only one reboot season. I watched the first couple episodes and I liked it, but I'm bad at TV, so I didn't stick with it. But now that I'm going back through it, I'll end up watching it.
But no CGI de-aging, in fact, right?
I think... there's some really, very laughable, practical effects de-aging that the show uses. Because, they'll flash back to when Dexter was, a teenager, and, it's just, this normal, 40-year-old man actor with, bangs, and, fake braces, they'll do like that.
Yeah. Wearing a Metallica t-shirt or something.
Yeah. So I assume that there's probably a lot of flashbacks and de-aging. There's one character that is on the show a lot, but he's dead. He appears as a Force ghost, so they might de-age him, maybe. So you're probably right. There's probably a lot of de-aging going on.
I wonder if 100 years ago were people complaining about movie makeup in the way that I complain about CGI de-aging. Were people I know that her eyes don't have such a, shadowy cast to them. What is this mascara on screen? I don't buy into this. Or
I think so. Weren't people mad at what's his face for being Frankenstein? I feel like there were reviewers and stuff at the time that were like, "Oh, this performance sucks. It's all makeup, and the actor isn't even really there. It's just makeup." I feel like people were mad at normal makeup back in the olden days.
They felt that Boris Karloff should have given the role instead to a real life Elephant Man type of a guy or something.
Maybe so. Or
was he alive at the time in the 30s? Maybe the real life Elephant Man could have taken the role.
That's a good point. Yeah, I think. Well, no, I think he was dead by then. He died around World War I. I think. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I know that the movie takes place around World War I, or before World War I.
Maybe he might have had a brother or something that also looked kind of jacked up.
Yeah. They should have hired him.
Yeah,
kept things pure in cinema. No makeup, no de-aging, nothing like that.
I guess some things don't change. We're still angry about the same things in movies, and it was still raining in Los Angeles when I got back.
True. Just like in that hit movie Blade Runner.
Absolutely, yeah. Speaking of not changing, I do want to report the most important thing about Japan. Mm-hmm. Their toilets are still garbage. Still hate their toilets. Still can't take a shit without it being a fiasco where I got to reach into the bowl and clean things up myself. I don't know. Next time I'm going to bring my own toilet.
Well, what makes them better? They're just weak? Are they small due to the diminutive Japanese body type? What's going on with their toilets?
We talked about this at length ad nauseum last time. Probably made some people nauseum at home, sick to their stomachs. It's just, it's the weird plasticky material that they're using rather than porcelain. Mm-hmm. Shit loves nothing more than to stick to this kind of material. And they don't fill them up with water all the way, so you're always making contact directly on that plastic. It's a nightmare. I was considering putting down plastic sheeting inside the bowl while I took a dump, and then I would collect it later, but I didn't bring my plastic sheeting either.
Yeah, you need a lot of water. That's the most important part of a toilet is having a lot of water in the bowl. You can't just get away with just a little bit. That's
I even tried pre-flushing multiple times where I'm let's lube this guy up with some water. Let's make it nice and wet so that everything's going to slide down real easy. Didn't help. Mm-hmm. Did not help.
Have you considered just pooping outside in the streets like we do here in America.
It did, cross my mind, but I did not pull the trigger. I'm a little bit of a prude when it comes to that kind of stuff. Call me crazy, but I like to poop in privacy.
Oh yeah, I understand that. I can't have anybody, even in the house, like at all. Like I can't be. Yeah, I don't want to be around anybody. It's my time.
You ever have those knocks on the door when you're trying to get something done in a single toilet scenario?
Yeah, your poop goes right back inside when you hear a knock. It's terrible.
Yeah, and then I die of sepsis. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a horrible situation.
What a bummer. But Japan's great other than the toilets. Got to go to Karakan Hall a couple times. Did some Valentine's Day shopping for Nikatsu Roman porno posters. That was a lot of fun. Saw Mount Fuji. And for the first time in a long time, I went to a Japanese movie theater, which was a fun experience.
Oh, yeah? What are you seeing?
I saw that new Gegege no Kitaro movie.
Man, what a world. You go to Japan and there just happens to be a Kitaro movie just playing at the multiplex. What a world.
Yeah, it was wild. I didn't expect it, but it was wild to see. Basically, like the genesis of it was we were walking around and my wife saw like a billboard for this volleyball anime movie, some series I'd never heard of called Haikyuu that she's really into. And she's like, I got to see this movie. And so we went over to the theater thinking, who knows if the timing is going to work out. Luckily, they had like 22 showtimes in one day for this fucking movie, including all the way up to like the final showtime starts at like 2:30 in the morning.
Wonderful.
And then everything else they were playing was either like a Gundam movie or a Kitaro movie, or like it was all exactly what you would expect from a Japanese cinema, like a bunch of animes and a couple of weird Japanese action movies that looked kind of cool, including one where it's kind of like the Japanese Expendables, where it's like all these old action dudes from like Yakuza movies from the 70s and 80s are getting back together for one last heist where they gotta like rob a bank in Yokohama or something. That looked kind of cool, but I didn't want to see the volleyball thing, so I popped into Kitaro. No subtitles, and I don't really know Japanese at all. So I would say I probably understood 35% of what was happening in the movie, but it looked cool, and the theater experience was great. That's what really impressed me, was just like, because I had gone to one Japanese theater when I lived there back in like 2005, and it was a pretty underwhelming experience. Maybe part of that was that we chose to see the movie Dark Water with Jennifer Connelly, which, promptly caused us to fall asleep. But the theater itself was one of those things where clearly, the building that it was in had not been designed as a movie theater. It was just like an office building. And they're like, yeah, I guess we can squeeze some screens into this, theater, but they're all like standard office floor height, maybe 10, 11 feet tall. This building, though, was fucking incredible. Like, had a whole bunch of cinemas in it, and they were huge. I don't even know how they pulled it off. It was like a magic trick where you got inside and you're like, how does this massive auditorium even fit in this skyscraper? But it did, and the sound and picture were probably the best I've ever seen.
That's very impressive, because I know you've been to that Chinese theater, which is the best sound and picture I've ever encountered. So it's hard to imagine a theater better than that.
Screen was not as big as the Chinese, of course, but the screen that I saw Qatar on was, I would say, as big as any other screen in LA that's not like a huge single screen experience, like as big as the biggest multiplex screen that I'd be able to find here. And then, just the sound and picture were just pristine in a way where I'm like, oh, this is what movies are supposed to look and sound like. It was pretty cool.
That sounds fun. Yeah. I'm very jealous that you saw this Kitaro, and I don't think that not knowing Japanese would really hurt, because like we watched all those episodes for Junk Food Desserts, and they had subtitles, and they didn't really help a lot, like it's you just gotta let Kitaro wash over you.
Yeah, certainly, and there's no language required to enjoy spooky yokais, doing battle, and there was plenty of that. So
Yeah. Were any of your favorite yokais in it?
Yeah, none of my old favorites, I would say. Maybe a couple of new favorites. There was an old man who cried, but I don't think he was crying old man yokai.
Okay. He was just like a human old man who was crying. That's confusing.
Yeah, but I mean, that could have been a reference, right? Maybe they were trying to allude to one of my favorite yokais. But who was the other guy that was really funny from... Wasn't there like parchment paper was a yokai or something? Like
Yeah. There's paper guy. There was a wall. There was a really good wall.
Oh, yeah, Wall was my favorite.
Yeah,
he was
Wall's a
not
good
present, sadly.
That's a shame. He's a classic.
But, overall, a successful trip. Glad to be back here stateside. Glad that I sidestepped Spock's summer yet again, even though it's only February. I've somehow managed to do that.
Well, that means you'll get 2 chances this year. You missed it in Spock February, but there's still Summer of Spock later this year, so you get your chance.
I hear Tokyo a-calling.
Well, I wanted to talk to you more about Tokyo. This was going to be the opening segment. It's just Tokyo chat. So I hear that you went to Mount Fuji. Were you doing some hiking, or is there like shopping malls at the base of the mountain, or like what's it like over at this landmark?
Yeah, so I had been kind of like near-ish to Fuji before. Like you pass it on the train if you're taking the train from Tokyo to Kyoto or Osaka or pretty much anywhere south of Tokyo. You're going to go by it. And I had been to like one town that is like kind of near-ish to it where you get a nice view of it or something. But at the very base of the mountain, there are 5 lakes, and they're all kind of like little tourist trap type towns where people go to these 5 lake towns and, enjoy the scenic beauty around it. And so we went to one of those, which was Lake Kawaguchiko, and had never been there before. It's just a small town on a lake right there at the base of Fuji. We didn't climb Fuji or anything like that, but, we probably walked about 10 miles around the lake or so, and just took in kind of the area, partied with some swans, things like this.
Okay, I like that. I would never party with a swan. I don't care for birds, especially large birds, but I do, judging from the photos and paintings I've seen, I do think that Mount Fuji is pretty nice. I would like to go there.
It's beautiful. I mean, I like a mountain in general. I'm kind of a mountain man. I'm sure you can tell that about me. But Fuji itself, yeah, it's really beautiful. Like the shape of it, like there's something about the shape of that mountain where you're like, God damn, if I were painting a mountain, this would be the image I would come up with, I think. Like it's just a iconic, perfect kind of mountain shape.
Yeah, it definitely has like, when you think about a mountain, it looks like that. To whereas like the mountains out here, like these Sierra Nevadas, like they don't even look like mountains. Like it just looks like a big, like a wall, like just in the sky, because like they're so wide and jagged, and there's some in the front and some in the back, and it's like chaos. But Mount Fuji is just like one nice looking mountain by itself. It's very atypical. It's nice to see.
Yeah, and it really feels like it's just kind of like reaching for the stars, like the way that it just kind of pops up out of the earth and everything around it is flat, and then it's just towering above everything. They've also got really tasty apple butter in the Fuji Mountain region, I guess from those real Fuji apples, but we bought a jar of that. We were spreading apple butter on local breads all night long, watching TV at the hotel room. So that was another highlight.
I like that you did it all night long.
We were watching that show at the hotel all night long, called something Taisho. I forget the full name of it, but it's this Japanese variety show that maybe you've probably seen clips from this thing. I feel like this is the most stereotypical like Japanese entertainment of all time, where it's like these like amateur little groups. It could be like 1 guy, 2 guys. It could be like 10, 15 guys. Maybe it's a whole classroom of elementary school students, but these amateur groups put on these little skits that are like between 1 and 3 minutes in length or something, kind of like a Japan's Got Talent sort of thing. But it goes back to, I think, like the early 70s or something. They do it twice a year, and this is the 99th installment that we saw. And it's just really funny. Like it's just all this like just random weird Japanese humor, and you don't really need to know the language at all because most of it's very visual. But there's like a classic one from probably 15, 20 years ago where these guys do a recreation of ping pong Matrix style. This year, one of the highlights was this routine that like a father and daughter put on where the dad in real life, I guess, is some sort of Japanese bodybuilder champion. Dude's like a fucking Japanese Arnold Schwarzenegger, just massively muscled. And he dressed up like identically to his daughter, who is like a, 14-year-old Japanese girl. So he's got like a little pink skirt on, and he's wearing pigtails, and he's got makeup on and stuff like that. And they did this sort of dance routine where they were synchronized, and he was imitating her. And it maybe doesn't sound that funny, but the way that they pulled it off was pretty hilarious.
That sounds fun. I would check that show out.
Yeah, check it out. It's called Something Taisho. So I'm sure you'll be able to find it from there.
Okay. Probably on the YouTube. Either that or I'll just go to Japan to check it out.
Yeah,
I'll just watch
exactly.
it. Just hang out there for a half an hour and watch the show and come back.
Check out the hotels in the Mount Fuji area. Kaiso Taisho, that's what it's called. First aired in 1979, I guess. Okay. So not early 70s, but still pretty long running.
I like the sound of that. And then I also saw that you had a wrestling adventure. What kind of wrestling did you see? Did anybody get horribly injured?
Thankfully, no, but you do wonder these days, man. Like, I don't know, like, in general, I think I am getting more squeamish about the risks that performers take, whether they are, drunken Australian stuntmen in the 70s throwing themselves off motorcycles intentionally for my jollies. Like that's something that I used to love when I was a kid, and now I'm like, oh, come on, dude. Like, please don't break your neck just for me to have a laugh at home. And same thing in wrestling, and especially I feel like Japanese wrestling lately, I guess not even lately, but kind of always, I guess, but especially recently, it's just bothered me. Motherfuckers are like German suplexing each other directly onto their necks like all the time in a way where I'm like, I don't know how you're getting up from these, but seemed like everybody was okay. But yeah, we went to Karakan a couple times. First for the All Japan /NOAH co-promoted anniversary show for NTV, Nippon Television, the 70th anniversary of wrestling debuting on Japanese TV with some match with Ricky Dozan and somebody else. And that was cool. Got to see a bunch of old dudes, like Masanobu Fulci, and like Onita was there, and the Great Muta was there, and all kinds of guys were there.
Did anybody get any green mist in their face?
No mist, sadly. Muta was just kind of doing commentary, but he came out at one point to throw these, like those gotcha balls, like the vending machine plastic balls that you get full of, I don't know, some kind of, was it a toy or I don't know what was inside of it, but some kind of gift he was throwing out to the audience. I didn't catch one. I tried to catch one. He didn't really throw them towards my section very much, but other than that, he was just doing commentary. But cool show. I mean, we got to see some of the younger guys, Timothy Thatcher, who I like.
That sounds fun.
It was cool. And then the other show was Stardom, which is, probably the best source of women's wrestling in the world at the moment. Got to see a couple of my favorite lady wrestlers, including Julia and Mayu Iwatani, doing their thing at the top of their game. Was kind of a bit of a weird show in that it was like their first show back in Tokyo after the founder of the company, Rossi Ogawa, was like fired or like pushed out or let go due to some, I guess, controversies about talent poaching. So that was a little bit weird. You could kind of feel that there was a bit of a tension in the crowd of like, it's kind of weird that this big corporation, Bushiroad, that took over New Japan and Stardom, is starting to push out some of these original people. But the show itself was good, and the matches were great.
Yeah, I was watching Stardom a lot for a little bit, and then like because like they used to put all their, and they might still put all their stuff on YouTube, or like a lot of their stuff.
Yeah.
But then the pandemic happened, and I think they like started doing, obviously started like posting less and less, and I just kind of fell out of it. But their stuff is always fun. It's like just like super colorful and cheerful, but then also ladies dropping each other on their heads in horrifying ways. So I like that. There's an American wrestling company called WOW, I think, the Women of Wrestling, that is sort of similar. Like the wrestling's not nearly as good, but it's like colorful superhero type ladies, like very big and broad and kind of like very 80s in the way that it's theatrical, and like, I don't know, it kind of reminds me of Stardom a little bit in terms of like the characters and stuff, but the wrestling kind of sucks.
That's what's impressive to me about Stardom, is that they're able to somehow balance that, where it's like legitimately like really good wrestling matches, like gender aside and costume and character aside, just like from a pure work rate standpoint, like these matches are really sharp and never boring, especially like the main event, and like kind of the later matches in the card tend to be really great. But then the girls are also really fun characters and oftentimes very attractive women as well, which that doesn't hurt. And they've got, cool costumes and fun interviews. Again, I don't speak any Japanese, but you can kind of get the gist of a lot just based on emotion and, body language and things like this. So,
yeah.
But I love Korakuen Hall. It's probably my favorite building on the planet. I was thinking about it when I was sitting in there, and it's like probably outside of like Letterman's studio, I don't know that I've spent more time in any other place via my television than Korakuen Hall. I've been watching, Terry Funk versus Jumbo Tsuruta matches, on VHS that took place there, in the early 80s, since the early 90s, when I was able to, hunt them down on the internet. And just so much history there, both in the wrestling world and just for me personally, that it's always a treat to go check in there. And the fact that it looks exactly the same as it always has since like the 70s is great. Shows there are cheap. The whole room only seats like, I think 1,500 people or something, and it's not a big place. So even the back row is a great view of the ring.
That sounds, that sounds good. Like I know I've seen that place. Like I'm not super high up on Japanese wrestling, but I know I've seen it a bunch of times. But I'm not like overly familiar with it. I need to watch more Japanese wrestling. I feel like this American stuff's no good. I gotta get the good stuff.
Yeah, get on it. Oh, actually, speaking of Terry Funk, they did a Terry Funk in memoriam thing at the All Japan Noah show, and that was really sweet. I shed a tear when they were doing the ringing of the bells. But they had this nice little video package of all of Terry's highlights in Japan, and they had a newly recorded video from Dory Funk thanking the Japanese fans and talking about how much Terry loved Japan and all this stuff. And they even ended the video package with that classic clip of Terry Funk shouting the word forever, which again kind of brought a tear to my eye.
Yeah. And then they also played that clip of him saying that he respected the Japanese of that country, which I thought was very nice of them to play.
Yeah, and then Lama Namanumi came out and paid tribute.
He's my favorite wrestler.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, all right. This sounds like a productive Japanese trip. You did all the things. Did you see any Godzillas? I guess that's the one thing that maybe you didn't do. Any Godzillas or any baseballs?
I mean, we saw there's the giant Godzilla head on the hotel in Shinjuku. We walked by that pretty much every morning because it was on the way to our train station. And we went to the Godzilla store in Shinjuku, and I bought a couple t-shirts. But probably my favorite thing to eat over there is there's a guy who's got a little shawarma stand in Kabukicho, East Shinjuku. And you go there, he's open till 3 a.m. He's got the big shawarma thing, on the spit rotating, and he'll cut you off just a real meaty sandwich, real delicious sandwich for 300 yen, which is, with the current exchange rate, $1.99. So I'm having dinner for $1.99 in Japan and feeling satisfied. Like, I don't think I could have taken down 2 of those sandwiches. They're pretty meaty. So I don't know anywhere in LA where I can feel satisfied for under $5.
Yeah, that is enticing. I think I spend something like $85 every day for lunch. Like, that's how bad it's gotten.
No joke. Last time I went to Wendy's for myself, it was like over $25. How is this possible?
I don't know. Probably the Russians. I blame the Russians. They're screwing with our currency. They're doing something.
Could be them. Could be Lama Nama Numi. Maybe he's to blame.
It's probably him. Well, speaking of Lama Nama Numi, we got some voicemails here.
Nice.
We got 2 of them. Let's do this one first from one of our favorites.
Please welcome Mia Sweet Man. You're so sweet. You're so sweet. You're so sweet.
Hey, junk food dinner. I'm back with more AI, artificial intelligence chat. It's free on YouTube right now. It's really high definition. So I was watching the part where all the robots are scavenging for robot parts. And I noticed something I don't think anyone else has ever commented on, from what I could tell from the internet. It's around 59:50, a little bit before that, and then I think around the 59-minute mark, there's this robot butler that they're taking its mouth, getting a new jaw off of a destroyed robot. And behind it is this robot that's very kind of obscured, and because you're not supposed to focus on it, but it's the Terminator endoskeleton. And it's picking through the trash. What's up?
Oh. Okay, well, thank you, Mia, for the voicemail. I'm sad to hear that you trailed off a little, or maybe you didn't. But yeah, I also like robots.
Yeah, but you don't like iRobot, the Will Smith movie.
No, I don't like that kind of stuff.
Do you like AI, though?
Just like in general as a concept?
No, the Steven Spielberg, Stanley Kubrick film.
Oh, kinda, I think we were just talking about this in the Discord, some folks, but I think mostly I like it, but that ending is dumb. I don't like the ending. It's very confusing visually.
I love that movie, and I'm going to have to go back and rewatch that scene in the junkyard. I don't remember any Terminator robots in the background, but I believe Mia. What stands out in my mind from that sequence is that really cool giant moon that turns out, I think, to be like a hot air balloon, right?
I think so. It's been a while since I've seen it.
Yeah. Well, cool movie. Maybe we'll review it on the show someday. I don't think we have, right?
We have not, no.
All right, well, someday.
We have another voicemail. I'm not sure who this one is from, but let's check it out.
Hey, junk food boys, or maybe just Parker. I'm not sure who's, when this is going to get played. But anyway, I was listening to the last episode. You were reviewing shows that debuted in the year 2000. And it was funny to hear you guys mention The District with Craig T. Nelson. That was actually on in my house a lot when I was in high school. I think my mom really liked the show. Yeah, it's just a very cookie cutter police drama. I think a little bit lower stakes is a little more lighthearted than something like a NYPD Blue or something. Yeah, and I think Craig Nelson was sort of a dandy. Like, the characters made jokes about how he would wear, like, double-breasted vests and, like, two-tone spats and stuff. I don't know. It was not a great show, but it was fine. So anyway, thanks for that blast from the past. Excited to hear what you guys think about the Star Trek movie that you're doing. It's actually my favorite one. I've never seen any of the original series, and so I've held off on watching those movies, except for how they overlap with the Next Generation stuff. But the Borg is cool, and that whole movie's pretty cool. And yeah, Parker, I think you're onto something when you say that it's your favorite one. I think I might be in the same camp. Okay, guys, take care. Looking forward to the meetup. Hope everyone is happy and healthy. And I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Thank you for the voicemail, and thank you for also liking Star Trek First Contact, by far the best Star Trek movie. It's probably your favorite Star Trek movie as well, Sean, I would think.
I'm a fan of Japanese movies.
The original series movies are also good, except for the first one, which sucks really bad. I don't think that I've never seen any original series, so I don't think that you need to see them to understand the movies. So check those out too. They're fun. Except for that first one. Just skip the first one. Go right to part 2. That's where it's at. But yeah. Also, I'm glad to hear you're coming to the meetup. The Junk Food Dinner meetup will be March 22nd through 24th in Cincinnati, Ohio. Beautiful Cincinnati, Ohio. Kevin recently found a place that sells ice cream that looks like Cincinnati chili. So I think we're all going to get some of that. I think that's going to be a delight. Exactly. So I'm getting hyped for it. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. How do you feel about Star Trek, Sean? Are you sad you missed that great movie?
You're asking me how I feel about Starman? Did I hear you correctly? Yeah. Well, you'll find out in just a minute what I think about Starman.
Okay.
I'm kind of a Starman myself, you know?
Yeah. You're waiting in the sky. You know? Like that David Bowie song.
What a fucking blown opportunity, John Carpenter. You don't throw that song over the end credits?
Yeah, it is pretty ridiculous that song's not on the soundtrack.
I mean, not even on a car radio, you know, just incidentally in a scene as somebody's, you know, pulling up to a gas station, maybe it's playing. Never in the movie?
Mm-hmm.
Jesus Christ. I mean, at that point, just rename the movie, right? Let's call it Alien Dude.
Mm-hmm. Might as well.
Call it anything that's not a very famous David Bowie song.
Yeah. Perhaps the most famous song about dudes from the stars. And they don't even use it.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's time to get into that movie then.
I think it is.
Yeah. I think we're going to take a quick
I mean, I can't sidestep Star Trek talk any longer, so it must be time to get into Starman instead.
That's a good point. I could talk about Star Trek all day. I love it. I've been watching this, the new Star Trek. Star Trek, what's he, I don't even know the name of it. It's like the newest one. It's like a prequel to the original series. It's kind of not
Lower
great.
Decks?
No, that's the cartoon one. To boldly,
Is it Upper Decks?
The Upper Decks. That's where you are in Star Trek and you take a shit, you know, on the top part of the toilet.
Of the bridge?
Know?
Okay.
Yeah, where the water is.
Man, you want to talk about bad toilets. Those toilets on the Enterprise, your shit will stick right to them.
That's what I've heard. That is what I've heard. What the fuck is the name of the Star Trek show? There's like 8 of these Star
Picard?
Trek shows.
Isn't there a Picard show?
There is a Picard show. It's Star Trek Strange New Worlds.
That's not a real show.
That is real. It's a prequel, so it's got like Spock and like Uhura and everybody when they're like youngsters. Kirk is a youngster, and it's it's okay. It's all right so far, I guess. It's no TNG, but
well, us true Trek heads know that DS9 is where it's at, Bowman.
I've heard that. That's the word. I need to get to that one. I'll get to them all one day, but in the meantime, we got to talk about the Starman. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will be talking about John Carpenter's Starman.
Never gone before. The William Shatner Star Trek convention sketch is probably one of my favorite SNL bits of all time.
Yes, beaming onto our countdown at number 71 is Captain James T. Kirk himself, William Shatner, taking a good-natured poke at his socially awkward fans.
Like when you left your quarters for the last time and you opened up your safe, what was the combination?
Shatner making fun of the Trekkies is incredibly ballsy because that's his bread and butter.
I'm a huge Trekkie, and I really am one of those guys at the convention. I was the guy that would wear the ears and put on the uniform.
I, who had entertained these 15,000 people at a time, never kind of thought about who's out there.
I still can watch that clip and laugh my ass off.
Get a life, will you people?
For crying out loud, it's just a TV show. I mean, look at the way you're dressed. You turned an enjoyable little job that I did as a lark for a few years into a colossal waste of time.
I remember William Shatner's being the host going to a Star Trek convention and telling people to get a life and asking if anyone had ever kissed a girl.
He risked pissing off all these little nerds.
It actually hit a little too close to home. In my case, I don't know if I have kissed a girl.
You know that he's been wanting to say that forever.
He's reached the apex, obviously. I think he was probably more worried if he did that with TJ Hooker fans. Those guys are messed up. Don't bust on Smed on live TV.
Before he beamed onto Star Trek, William Shatner was actually a classically trained actor. Not unlike the next guy on our countdown.
In 1977, Voyager 2 was launched into space, inviting all life forms in the universe to visit our planet. In 1984, someone accepted our invitation. Get ready. Company's coming. John Carpenter's Starman.
Get ready, company's coming this Friday to a theater near you.
Welcome back to Junk Food Supper. The movie that we're reviewing on the show today is Starman from 1984. This was directed by Mr. John Carpenter. And it's a movie that I had never seen before this week. This is one of those few John Carpenter movies that I have just kind of always avoided. And for a long time, I think that was pretty deliberate. You know, as a kid, it seemed to me like it was a huge miscalculation on the part of one John Carpenter that he would ever take a break from putting out, classic horror movies to do a romantic drama sort of a thing that is vaguely sci-fi-ish. This is the guy that I want making more of The Thing, or if not that, at least give me like an In the Mouth of Madness or something like this. But meanwhile, in 1984, dude chose to follow up The Thing and Christine with, again, a romantic drama. Like, it just always rubbed me the wrong way as a kid. And I didn't want to see this. I wanted to pretend like this never existed. And then, as an adult, I feel like I certainly reached a place where I would be much more open to movies like this. But it still didn't seem like maybe John Carpenter was the guy to deliver that kind of a movie for me. And so it was just never really on my list of things that I wanted to pursue. Was that also your experience with this movie? Had you seen it before? Were you turned off as a kid by these articles in Fangoria magazine about, oh, hey, by the way, John Carpenter made a romance movie?
Yeah, as a kid, I and like getting into John Carpenter and finding out like, you know, like in like 7th, 8th, 9th grade when you start following directors and stuff. Yeah, this was like, I vaguely was aware of it, but it just seemed like a lot of those 80s movies that I don't really care about, like Close Encounters or, you know, like a lot of that like Spielberg adjacent stuff that it's just not for me. It seemed like that, and then when I finally got around to watching this, probably like 6 or 7 years ago, when I went through like every John Carpenter movie so I could log them all on Letterboxd, that's kind of exactly what it is. It's kind of a Spielberg light sort of a romantic drama, like you said. So yeah, I was very turned off for a long time, and it still seems weird. It still just doesn't seem like it fits into his filmography.
I guess if you break it down, he had done some other things. He had done the Elvis movie, which I also still haven't seen. That's maybe at this point like the last remaining John Carpenter.
Yeah, that's the only one
I haven't seen. Yeah. And, you know, like Memoirs of an Invisible Man later on is not really a horror movie. But there's stuff in there, but to me, this always seemed like such a departure. But let's talk about the plot real quick. So, Karen Allen stars in this, who is kind of an actress that made a really big impact on me as a kid. I guess mostly through, you know, Indiana Jones and the movie Scrooged. But when I look at her filmography now, I'm kind of surprised at how few roles she really had on screen, at least in things that I had seen. But certainly an actress that I liked as a kid and still like as an adult. She plays Jenny in this, who is a recently widowed woman in Wisconsin. And on one day in 1984, the Voyager space probe, which had been sent, I guess, back in 1977 towards the outer reaches of space, it encounters an alien race who are able to obtain from it that gold disc that was contained on Voyager 2 that contains, you know, all of humanity's knowledge packed onto a single record disc, it seems like. And, you know, they come upon all this data about Earthlings, and they say, well, this is interesting, you know, let's learn more about these human beings on this planet Earth, and let's send a guy down there to go check that out. And so they send one of their aliens towards Earth, and he ends up getting shot down by the military and crash lands near Karen Allen's house, after which he assumes the identity of Jenny's dead husband, using photographic references, sort of a proto-deep fake scenario. And said husband and also said alien are played by Jeff Bridges, looking jacked and looking young in a way that my wife did not believe at first, that he really was the dude from Lebowski. But it is him with all these muscles. And he's got to find a way back to his home planet before Charles Martin Smith, director of Air Bud, and the rest of the military track him down. Didn't realize that's who that guy was until looking at Wikipedia. But yeah, that kind of weaselly scientist guy with the army, he's the dude that directed Air Bud, I guess. From there,
a master of the cinematic craft. Yeah,
absolutely. But from there, the movie goes exactly where you expect it will, with absolutely zero surprises, not much character development, and no new elements really introduced into the movie beyond the first 10 minutes or so. They really do just kind of set up everything right away, and then it just kind of plods along towards its logical conclusion. One thing that I did really like in this is the incorporation of the Voyager 2 probe into the plot line. It's obviously a real world thing that, humans really did send off this funny gold disc into space. And I don't know, I always thought that was kind of interesting as a kid. I remember reading about it and just thinking this is kind of interesting that this thing was out there, and just kind of wondering on, who might ever encounter this and will it ever reach, any kind of intelligent species out there. I guess the Voyager 2 probe is actually still active today and is still in communication with NASA, which is pretty crazy that 46 years after its launch, it's still going.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Especially considering it's probably got like Walkman parts in it, like transistor radio parts from 1978 or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. And meanwhile, my phone doesn't last a year before I got to replace it.
Yeah, I got this phone a year and a half ago, and the battery is already like, I need to charge it after like 2 hours now. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I guess you should just make phone calls on a Voyager 2 instead. At least you'll know it'll be around for a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, cool that they put that into this movie. I think that's a fun hook for this story. And I guess it is kind of fun to see John Carpenter branching out into other genres, And you do get a few little kind of horror movie type moments in this. There's, there's an American Werewolf type sort of transformation where when the alien first lands in Karen Allen's living room, he's got to transform from a baby into a full-grown human.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of, I don't know, it doesn't look great. It looks kind of bad, to be honest, but it's also kind of fun. It's fun to see a practical effects transformation on screen.
Yeah. Well, that's the kind of the part most of all in this movie that feels John Carpenter-y, because like you have like these weird morphing effects that are sort of like a G-rated version of The Thing. And then before that, like when he's still like a ball of light or whatever the hell he is, he's like going through the house and it's all through like his point of view, and it's very much like the beginning of Halloween. So it's like,
yeah,
all the John Carpenter-ness in this is like in that first 15 or 20 minutes.
Yeah, certainly that's where the bulk of it is. And especially, those killer POV shots are just ripped out of Halloween, which, I guess you're allowed to do it when you invented it, but very reminiscent of Halloween and kind of stick out in this movie. But I think, overall, the movie does have that kind of classic John Carpenter look to it, even when it's not dwelling on themes or specific visuals that might appear in his other movies. Just kind of like the way that he frames the shots. He's using these very wide angle compositions and a lot of like framing inside of framing, like multiple layers of framing to a shot. I thought it looked, like a John Carpenter movie, and in a good way, which is to its benefit because I think a lot of the appeal is just kind of taking in those visuals. This is very much a road trip kind of a movie, and you get a lot of that scenic road trip stuff, and it looks nice, a lot of classic diners and, of course, classic downtown Las Vegas neon signs, which, by the way, at one point, the Starman turns into Dougie Jones, Mr. Jackpot from Twin Peaks. Like, it's 1,000% just that.
Yeah, I was very shocked. I was curious as to whether or not that scene was why you picked this movie. So I'm a little surprised that you had never seen it before. Because it is just 100%. The Twin Peaks stuff.
Yeah, it surprised me. So definitely not my intent, but I did think it was pretty funny to see that. So shortly after we saw the same thing happen in Twin Peaks. There's also some pretty impressive real-ass fireball explosion type stuff in this movie. If you like big-ass 1980s explosions, you get a couple good ones in here. And I was actually very excited to see that they filmed at the Arizona Meteor Crater at the end of this movie. That's a place that I myself had visited about 5 years ago, like just kind of pre-pandemic. And when I went there, they still can't stop talking about the fact that people, that John Carpenter was there 20 years prior, 30 years prior even, to film this movie. I guess that's probably the only thing that's happened there, outside of the meteor striking the Earth. And they're very proud of it. But yeah, it was cool to finally see those scenes that I remember my tour guide way back when talk about. And I was also excited to see George Buck Flower make a cameo in this as a line cook who gives Jeff Bridges a lift at one point, which I think, if you didn't tell me what role George Buckflower played in this movie, I probably would have said, I don't know, he probably plays a line cook who gives Jeff Bridges a lift at some point. I mean, that's more or less what you would expect from him, but he's good in this.
Yeah, this may be the only time I've ever seen George Buckflower in a movie where he has a job. Like, it's
fair.
He has property in this movie. It's pretty wild. But yeah, like, certainly you would expect he's not going to come in and be like, the scientist guy or like the head of the military or anything. Like this, him being like the line cook with a car is like the fanciest role of his life.
Yeah, big upgrade for old Buck, but always fun to see the guy. Mm-hmm. And overall, I mean, it also feels like this movie is maybe kind of about nostalgia in a way, or at least it feels like it's just packed with some nostalgia for like an earlier time in America that I guess maybe John Carpenter was feeling at the time. He's not that old of a man when he makes this movie. I think John Carpenter is like 35 or something when he directs this. But it does feel like these characters are kind of from an earlier time in America. Like the way that they dress feels much more 1970s than it does 1984. The plot's all about this space probe from the 70s. The movies that they're watching on TV are all very old movies. The cars that people drive in this are older cars, from the 70s and stuff like this. And, as much as like the plot on the surface is about this woman kind of mourning the loss of her husband, it feels like John Carpenter kind of mourning the loss of an America that he was like maybe more comfortable in. Because like nothing in this really speaks to the 1980s that they were living in. There's very little 80s centric pop culture stuff in this at all. Even, the new Coke soda machine gets thrown downstairs at one point in this movie, which I felt like was maybe a not so subtle reference to Carpenter not enjoying the kind of changing times that he was living in. But overall, this really is just kind of a cornball fish out of water movie, like Big or like Splash or like Rain Man or like so many other movies from the 1980s. It's even got that scene that is in all of those movies, I think, or at least in my mind it is, which is the fish out of water character tries a cigarette for the first time and then coughs uncontrollably. I think I've seen that maybe 10,000 times in these movies. So I could see anybody watching this and really not enjoying it, because it's very cookie cutter in a lot of ways. But I'll say, for me, I mean, I really like Karen Allen and I really like Jeff Bridges, and spending a couple hours with them, traveling across the Great West with these nice, camera angles and things like this. It was enough to keep me entertained. It's probably not one that I'm in a rush to ever go back and rewatch. And I guess I'm glad that Carpenter, got this out of his system and went back to making horror movies, which I think he's much better at. But I'd be lying if I said that I loved it, but I also didn't hate it. It's just kind of a movie that is very familiar. It was a good movie to watch post-vacation, coming back kind of jet-lagged, kind of feeling a bit out of sorts. This was something that kind of grounded me with how familiar it was. So didn't hate it, didn't love it, can't really go out of my way to recommend it. But if you haven't seen it, it's probably not as bad as you might imagine it could be. Is that about fair? What do you think, Bowman?
I feel like that's exactly the way I feel about it. Yeah. Although I think that, I don't know that we're in the minority necessarily. Maybe the people I'm going to mention here are the minority, but I know that there are people out there who rank this in like the top 3 Carpenters who absolutely love this. So
well, I don't think that is weird.
Well, yeah. I don't think that there are a lot of them, but they're out there. So I don't want to invalidate those people. But But I mean, that's one of the cool things about Carpenter is like, you know, you hear a lot of different like top 3 Carpenter movies, you know, which I think is cool. You don't get that with a ton of directors, you know. So I think it's weird maybe that people would put this so high up there, but I don't know. You do you. I mean, he's got a lot of movies, so what can you do? But yeah, I think this is, yeah, I don't know. It kind of just feels like maybe after The Thing bombed so hard, he was just like, well, I'm just going to make a kind of normal movie and hope for a box office success and, you know, fuck it. You know, kind of a thing. Like, it feels like that sort of to a degree. Which makes it a shame that this movie didn't really do well at the box office either. Like, I think it kind of just made its money back and was forgotten about. Probably because it opened a week either before or after David Lynch's Dune, which was, you know, just a box office megastar, you know, just a juggernaut of money making.
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely that, and not that Dune turned everyone off on the concept of space forever.
Yeah, I think that had a lot to do with it.
I'm pretty sure that NASA tried to shut down the Voyager 2 space probe remotely after they saw Dune. They said, we're giving up on space. No more probes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But that's probably why they're back in contact with the probe, is they saw the Denis Villeneuve Dune, and they're like, oh, okay, never mind. That David Lynch one was pretty good. I do like David Lynch. Everybody knows that. You know, that's just the way I operate. You know, that's just me personally.
He's got his own M.O. Modus operandi.
I just needed to find an excuse to play that one. It's my favorite one. But yeah, this does sort of feel like Carpenter being like, all right, I haven't had a hit since Halloween, or something like that. I need something. I need some juice. So let me do this kind of Spielberg-y type of movie that seems to be like a automatic gold. Because this does feel like Close Encounters and E.T. sort of smushed together. But you know, I don't know. I mean, it's not really my thing. I'm not the biggest Spielbergman in the world. But it's understandable that he cast such a large shadow over the 80s, so most of the 80s does sort of feel like this. So I don't know, maybe no matter what John Carpenter would have done, he would have had to have made a Spielberg-y type of movie as an inevitability, because everybody did. You know, Joe Dante made one, Tobe Hooper made one, so maybe John Carpenter would have had to made one too. But yeah, I don't know, like, you know, the first 20 minutes go a long way. Like I said, those are the most Carpenter-y parts. The part where the baby turns into a human in front of the lady's eyes also kind of reminded me of that part in Warlock the Armageddon, where Julian Sands does that. Although it's much more horrific in that movie. But I like that scene. I like the beginning, and you know, I like the conceit. It's like very sweet that this lady's going on this adventure with her dead husband/alien. But yeah, it's got all the normal tropes that you would see in a movie like this, like you said, like the smoking thing, and you know, he discovers food and he loves it, and
yeah,
you know, he cures a deer of being dead, and he has a run-in with like local, you know, rednecks, and it's like every single thing that happens in every single one of these kind of movies is here. But Jeff Bridges is great. So
he watches TV and learns how to interact with humans based on scenes from classic movies, you know, like From Here to Eternity.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's super well-worn territory, even at the time. And I mean, there's been a bunch of movies like this since this, but even in '84, it was like pretty well-worn territory, I think.
Yeah, it's basically Short Circuit, but with an alien instead of a robot.
Yeah, pretty much. But I mean, you know, seeing the desert's cool. Like anytime a movie takes place in the desert, that makes me like it like 15% more than a normal movie. Seeing that old Vegas stuff is cool. Seeing downtown Vegas without the Fremont Street experience, you know, being closed off. That's cool. He walks by the Plaza Hotel, which is where part of Goodfellas was made, or at least like the exteriors and stuff. Like, also a cool hotel. I've stayed there a couple times. I like it there. So yes, I don't know. I mean, yeah, it really gets by with the power of the leads. But it is, yeah, it's trite. It's a little bit slow and meandering and a little bit boring. But I mean, I think it's good. Like you said, I mean, it's not bad at all. It does what it aims to do, which is be pretty breezy and entertaining. So yeah, so I think this is like lesser Carpenter, but it's still lesser Carpenter's better than most people's stuff. So you know, it's fine.
I guess one other thing that stands out about this in Carpenter's filmography is this is one of the very few without any music from the man. Instead, he employed legendary record producer Jack Nitzsche, Phil Spector's old right-hand man, to do the music. And it's good music, you know, in that kind of vein of, you know, other scores that Nitzsche had done. But it's kind of weird to watch a John Carpenter movie without any of his signature tunes in it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I probably would have preferred a John Carpenter score because they're always bangers, but I really do like this score. I think the score is really good. So I think it worked out, despite not having John Carpenter do it.
Yeah. Well, I see also on Wikipedia that there was apparently a short-lived TV spin-off. It ran for 22 episodes from September of 86 to May of 87. Completely different cast, of course. And it's probably awful. But I think that's kind of interesting that there was a TV spin-off of this movie that was not really a success, but I guess that's how TV worked back then, is just about anything got a spin-off.
Yeah, I'd be curious to check that out. Because like you said, this wasn't really like a runaway hit the way that, you know, like Ferris Bueller was, so it makes sense to make that a TV show. Like, yeah, it's kind of odd that they would turn this into a show. Might check out YouTube and see if it's on there.
Yeah. Well, speaking of checking out things that might be on the internet, I think we're getting danger close to the point where you're going to tell me what I'm going to be checking out movie-wise with you on the next episode.
That's true. I got my list here.
Yeah.
I got some things here. So my plan for next month, and you don't have to do this either, but this is just going from the movies I'm going to be picking. I'm doing musical March, all musicals all month long. So
you know that is an extremely dangerous proposition to, you know, present to me, Mr. Old-timey musical guy that's going to pick nothing but silent musicals from the 1920s.
Well, join in for musical March if you want to. That's perfectly acceptable.
Okay.
But I got two movies here, both musicals, both I think well regarded. One is a very serious musical, and one is a very silly musical. And so I need you to pick between the serious one and the silly one, and then that's the one we'll do. But I can't tell you which one is which.
Please tell me that neither of these musicals are post 2000. Just do me a solid on this.
I believe they're both from the 70s or maybe the early 80s.
Okay, all right. Now you're getting closer to my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Still, you know, within the advent of sound pictures, but I won't hold that against you.
Fred Astaire is in neither one of these that I know of. I guess it's possible he is. I don't know.
I'm going serious, I guess. I'm a serious man. You know me.
Okay, yeah. I know how you like to get serious with your musicals. So we're going to do Cabaret, the musical about the Nazis.
Oh boy. Okay. Have you seen it before?
I have not, but I keep hearing that I'm going to love it. I've seen like the first 15 minutes of it in stage show form, like in real life. And I've seen like the last 5 minutes of it in film class in college. So I've seen a little bit of it, but never the whole thing.
It's a serious one.
It is a serious one, I hear.
What was the silly one?
The silly one was Best Little Whorehouse in Texas.
Okay, all right. I've never seen that one. But yeah, Cabaret is there's a lot to talk about for sure. I'm excited to talk about that one.
Excellent. Well, it's going to kick off Musical March, a month-long experience in musicals, at least with the movies I'm going to pick. Nobody else has to do it, but if you want to, feel free.
All right. Well, at least 3 movies, I guess, if my math is correct, for the month. Maybe 4 from you will be musical.
Something like that, yeah. Bad at math. At least 2.
Well, at least this one, and then we'll evaluate whether or not you've got any interest in musicals anymore after Cabaret.
True. We might both hate Cabaret so much that we never want to see another musical again.
It's true. But the only way to find out that is to tune in next week, or maybe in 2 weeks, depending on whether or not Kevin Moss shows up for next week's potential junk food dinner. But one or the other, either in a week or in 2 weeks, we'll be talking about that. And at some point, we'll be talking with Kevin Moss about Invisiblemans. I think we've got an all-Invisible Man theme show lined up for you to cap off Sci-Fi February. So that's very exciting. But until then, this is your friend, Sen Biro, for your other friend, Perky Beantown Bowman, saying keep washing those dishes.
Director John Carpenter, the creative force behind such box office bonanzas as Halloween, The Fog, Escape from New York, and Christine, on location in Tennessee with his latest film from Columbia Pictures, an action-adventure-filled romance called Starman. The film stars Jeff Bridges and Karen Allen and marks a change from the horror and suspense genre for director Carpenter.
I've done a lot of thrillers and suspense and horror films. I've also done other kinds of films. I did a 3-hour movie about Elvis Presley for television. So I feel like my work has a kind of a broad range to it. I also feel like I've been moving slowly into different areas, and Starman is just another step towards a more dramatic film. It has comedy and adventure and science fiction, so it's things that I'm used to.
Well, there are elements in the love story that we're familiar with. It Happened One Night, the film with Clark Gable and Claudette Colbert comes to mind, and it has some of the elements of that in that it's about 2 people who are at odds with each other in the beginning of the film, and then after they have a journey together, they discover that they're in love with each other.
Well, it's sort of a love story between an alien and a human woman. I sort of have jokingly called it Close Encounters of the Fourth Kind, or Fifth Kind, or I don't know what you call it. Love story of the third kind.
My favorite love story has always been The Graduate. That's actually practically my favorite picture. It's a terrific film. And I think there are probably some similarities here in that, when Dustin Hoffman first meets Catherine Ross, he doesn't like her, and the same is pretty well true here. And when Karen's character first meets the Starman.
I think Jeff had the most difficult role in the film because he had to portray a super intelligent alien cloned in a human body who really doesn't understand the traditions or the niceties of Earth, and yet he's incredibly intelligent, so he had to get across that plus kind of being a dummy at the same time.